Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome back to my second Elder Scrolls Online video. So I moved the webcam a little bit. I still have piss poor lighting. It's mainly because how I look. I'm kidding with you. Um, Always be insecure. So this is gonna be my first build video. Um, so I'm gonna be showing you my Magicka Templar build. This build is primarily used for solo play, but it can be fantastic in groups as well. Okay. Um, So, man, I really need to go get a cut. It's really fucked up. Okay, so first of all, don't worry about activate Windows. Okay, I'm planning to build a new PC in the next couple months, hopefully. So I'm not gonna activate the shit. Okay, so somebody pointed that out when one of my friends pointed that out. So yeah. Um, so let's actually get into the video. This is going to be my Magicka Templar build. It's more of a meta build. I will be going over the gear set I'm using and the skills I'm using, and a little bit of the rotations and why the skills I'm using, the race and the Mundus stone. Okay. Um, I'm also gonna be showing you alternative gear sets you can also use, and some flex skills you can also use. This build is not completely finished. I will get over that. I will go over that when I get to it. Um, but it's a primarily good build. Before you ask, if this build I parse about 91k, if I get everything upgraded, fix my daggers, and do change one or two abilities, is easy 100k. Okay, and this is on a Breton. So if you're on a Khajiit, especially a high elf, I'll go over race and all that in a second. This is mainly meant for a template. So if you want to copy this build, you can. You don't necessarily have to. But it's mainly used as a template build. So let's kind of get into it. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. So yeah. So let's go over the head first. I'm using One Piece Slime Crawl. Although, by the way, everything is max Magicka and Divines, so I'm not gonna repeat that. Everything's max Magicka and Divines. I'm using One Piece Slime Crawl. You get this from Veteran Way West Sewers 1, not 2. If you go to your sticker book here, and the reason you don't want to go 2 is because you'll get an off meta tank set there. So if we go into, it's a base game. It's one of the easiest base games. You could probably solo it if you're decent. If you go to Way West 2, you're gonna get this set. You don't want this. You want this. You can either rock the head or the shoulders. I chose the head with deadly. Okay. You want the light. You could go heavy, but the reason I'm going light is so I can get the light armor passives for the reduced Magicka ability cost, which is really good with Bretons, and then the magic recovery, and then the prodigy, and then the obviously there's many reasons why, and then the rest is medium armor. Also, this gets you the undaunted passive. I'm not fully maxed out on this character yet, but this will get you the undaunted passive, right? So just know that 4% when it's maxed out for your max health, stamina, and Magicka per piece. So if you actually have a heavy, this will help more, I believe, but I'm not doing that shit. So then I'm rocking deadly on my shoulders. Then I'll also be rocking deadly on my 2 rings, and then deadly on my daggers. So it's going to be, you can swap this out so you can have deadly on the head and then slime crawl on the shoulders, really up to you. But I'm rocking deadly on the shoulders, and then 2 deadly rings and the deadly daggers. Why deadly is a really good set is because it gives you critical chance and 2 things of weapon spell damage, but it's mainly used for Arcanists and Templars because of the damage over time effects and the channeled time effects. Your main ability, Puncturing Sweeps, is a channeled ability. So the more damage by its own, there's not really a lot of champion points. I don't think there's no champion points to actually boost it by itself, so it's kind of limp on its own. So this will help with the damage, and it's also going to, since it's going to be doing damage, deadly is going to be boosting the damage. That means since Puncturing Sweeps heals you, the more damage you do with it, the more healing you get back from it. And this is why I'll get to this ability. Solar Barrage is really, really good as well. The daggers. Let's go over the daggers. These are going to be, you can get deadly off PvP merchants, I believe, by doing PvP, I think, or you can mainly get it off guild traders. It's relatively cheap. It's going to be expensive if you get it legendary divines. Just get it. You just want it on your sticker book so you can retransmute it. You can use your transmutes. The deadly daggers are probably going to be the most expensive thing on this, to be honest with you. You want 1 poison, nirn hold, and you want 1 flame charge. I don't have charge. Don't ignore that. You want charge, okay? And then for my actual set here, my 5-piece set for my body, I'm using non-perfected Reliquin. So not everything's golded out yet, but it will be. Eventually, I'm going to swap this to Whorl of the Depths. I'll get into that, and I'll be using this set on my DK. But that's a different video and potentially an update video, right? So the reason I'm using Reliquin, I honestly would not recommend Reliquin outside of parsing and solo content. The reason is a lot of this, it's the best single target damage in the entire game, right? And a lot of soloing is a lot of single target damage. But bosses, it can be difficult to maintain your light attacks, your stacks, which is not good. I mean, you can do pretty much any content with this. It's just not going to be as good. You get this from Cloud Rest. You get the non-perfected from normal, and you get the perfected from veteran, right? It's extremely short. You can see need rarely Cloud Rest. I don't recommend you do veteran on maybe just a +0. You could probably pull off on a pub, but I wouldn't recommend that. But on normal, you can go +3. It's no problem with low champion point players. Okay, it's very quick. It's not overly long. So yeah, that's my 5-piece set. And pretty much what I really like about this set is fantastic single target damage, but there's also a little gap. So you don't have to be extremely fast at light attack weaving. You still want to be as fast as possible, but there's a little gap in the stacks. So it helps newer players, okay? And then for my back bar weapon of choice, I'm rocking the Maelstrom Perfected Inferno Staff. You can go Lightning, you can go Frost. The meta says Inferno. I don't know why that is. I just chose Inferno because that's what I got told to do, okay? Lightning does the same thing. In my opinion, I think Lightning is easier. Don't mind the enchantment, the decisive enchantment. I believe you want probably something. I forgot what it is. But the reason we're going the Maelstrom's Perfected is because it's going to add offensive penetration, and it's going to add to our Wall of Elements, which is in our back bar. You can go normal. It's going to be like a probably 2 to 3% difference. You won't get that offensive pin, which is really, really good, especially in solo content, but even in group content, it's still really, really good. Okay. If you want for a pure parsing, if you want the highest parse, you would go to the Maelstrom's Perfected Greatsword and have Stampede and all that, but that is not good for a actual content on this build. You could do it, but you're probably not going to be able to sustain it because that's a lot of stamina ability. Stampede costs probably like half our stamina on this, so it's not really going to be worth it, to be honest with you. You could rock it on a trial, but keep in mind, Rally is fantastic for trial, and the Greatsword is fantastic for trial on this particular build. I mean, fantastic for parsing. I mean, both of these sets and solo content. Maybe not the Greatsword because you're not gonna be able to sustain it with this build, especially it being a Breton, right? But yeah, and then we have weapon and spell damage enchantments. Our rings, like I said, weapon and spell damage, bloodthirsty, and then our mythic of choice here. And I'll go over the non-mythic setups in a sec. But our mythic of choice comes from Necrom. There's 2 things you have to do to get this. First of all, you either have to have ESO Plus and have the access to the Greymoor chapter, or you have to buy the Greymoor chapter, or you have to just outright buy the Necrom. Gold Road is coming out, I think, in early June for us PC players, so Necrom will be included in ESO Plus. Well, it should be. I don't know about the class itself, the Arcanist, but the zone will be, and the access to the mythic will be, right? So just know that. To get the access to the Scrying, you'll need Greymoor, I'm pretty sure, and then you will go to Solitude, and you'll go right here. A fast way to level this up, I heard you could potentially abandon the quest after you get the skill line and keep doing that. But the way I do it is I will go to Archaeum, and I'll get to like level 4 or 5, whatever level you can do to start doing purples. Purple, scrying, and excavating, and then do that in every single zone, and you'll level up really fast and eventually get to legendary. It's not hard. You can't lose the leads. I'm not gonna. You can watch a video on it. You can't lose the leads. There's no like. It's just it can sometimes get really annoying, but it's relatively pretty easy, especially after level 7. Level 7 is when you are able to do the mythic leads and legendary leads, right? And so I'll try to put a link down below in the description of maybe a video or a written guide. It's not mine, that you can follow to get all the leads. It took me about 2-3 hours. Probably I had a friend help me with a couple, so shout out to you. You know who you are if you're watching. But it's roughly about the same time it took me to get Pale Order or Oaken Soul. Then again, I got relatively lucky because I had the ones where you get the keys already had it, the lead for it, because I just got lucky and ran it as a daily, and I just got the keys, and I got the lead a few weeks prior. They last 30 days each lead, so remember that, okay? This is good because it's going to add offensive penetration, and it's going to increase your damage done by 15% to like trial things. You're going to gain major force of all times, which I'll get into because that is something that we already have, even if you don't have the mythic, from Bark Trap. But it's also going to be reducing your light and heavy attack damage by 99%. That does not mean you do not need a light and attack weave. You need to still practice your animation canceling because that will add up to damage and it will help with Reliquin or even Whorl of the Depths, okay? That is the gear setup. Let me go over the non-mythic setup, okay, before I get into the different trials gear, and then I'll get into the abilities and then the Mundus and then champion points. So this is going to be probably a decently long video. You can use 2-piece Zaan if you do not have access to the mythic, okay? So what you would do is you would have the necklace of, I believe you would do the necklace, Deadly Necklace, Bloodthirsty, and a multi-effect enchantment, and then 2-piece Zaan. This comes from Scare Color, but you can also get it from the Undaunted Pledges. I forgot the lady you have to talk to. It's a lady, I think it's a Redguard woman. If you go to Vardenfell, I mean not Vardenfell, if you go to Grotwood, I call it Grootwood because I can't pronounce shit. And that's just how I see it. I'm dyslexic, you know, fuck off. You go to get your pledges, and I completely forgot what it is, but it's the Dragon Bones coffers. And to really get them decent, you would want the veteran hard modes, but you can go on normal. You only get 3 keys. You can either buy the specific ones, the Dragon Bones, and you can get it, potentially get it, or you can just buy random ones for 1 key. So if you go to your collections, your set items, so your sticker book, if you go to a DLC, it's a DLC, so you're gonna need access to ESO Plus or outright buy it. Just get ESO Plus, honestly. Go to Scare Color Peak. This is what we're gonna need. We're gonna need 2 lights. You could go 1 light, 1 heavy for the Undaunted, but I recommend 2 lights because this is gonna be better for a Magicka build. So 2 light pieces, 1 helmet, and then 1 shoulder, and then you would want max Magicka. This is really, really good. It's not going to be probably as strong as the mythic, but it's a good beginner setup, okay? Like I said, this is more of a meta build, so yeah, you can rock this. If you don't want to go deadly, you can also switch out deadly for Pillar of Nirn from Falkreath Hold. That's a really, really good set. It's extremely easy to proc, and I actually saw a video of 124k parse with Reliquin, non-perfected Reliquin, and also Pillar of Nirn. Every deadly would be Pillar of Nirn with the same type of enchantments, okay? Yeah. That's pretty much it with the gear. Let's go over the alternative gear sets. I just already explained one, which is Pillar of Nirn with Reliquin. If you don't have the access to the mythic, it would be 2-piece Zaan, head and shoulder, light, and then it would be, instead of the mythic item right here, it would be the Deadly Necklace, okay? Same enchantments, okay? You could also go, what I'm grinding out for is Whorl of the Depths. It's not going to be as strong single target damage, but it's going to be better for most content. Eventually, I'm not at that level yet, but eventually, when you get, do actually start doing a lot more content, you would have separate armors, not armories, but separate, not separate builds, but separate armor sets for trash and different bosses. I'm not at that level yet. Probably skill-wise, I'm around that level, maybe, but not at the progression-wise, right? I'm not that rich. So yeah, you would get this from my trial, Dreadsail Reef. If I go to trials, Dreadsail Reef, it's DLC, and I'll get to Coral Riptide in a second. But Whorl of the Depths, I'm grinding it to be perfected. This is how you would set it up, and this is how I'm going to set it up. Very similar. I'm going to be everything that's Reliquin, it will be deadly, and everything that is deadly, it will be Whorl of the Depths. So deadly deadly chest, deadly belt, deadly feet, so deadly boots, deadly guards, so pants, and deadly hands, so gloves. And then 1 piece of that would be shoulders, which would be Whorl of the Depths. Or you could change it to Slimecraw and then Whorl of the Depths head. And then the rings would be Whorl of the Depths, and the daggers would be Whorl of the Depths. Same enchantments. That is what I'm going to do, and then when I make my DK build, I'm going to have Reliquin on that. So for that, a good single target damage. I may make a build video. I will make a build video when I finish that. It's going to take a little bit of time. I do have enough transmutes. I just have to grind it a bit more. That's besides the point here. So let's move on. That's a really good set, perfected. I recommend you, if you can, go for get perfected, because you get that increased critical chance. The difference between a perfected and non-perfected set is between 1 to maybe 3%, like 1% to 2.5%. So just know that, okay? You also, if you're a Templar, Stamina Templar, or Arcanist, you can rock this if you're a Magicka Templar. It's just not going to be near as good. Perfected or non-perfected Whorl Riptide. You can rock this if you're a Magicka Templar. Just have it max stamina. I mean, max Magicka enchantments. The only problem is you always want to keep your stamina at least 33% or lower, okay? And that's going to be very hard for you to do as mainly a Magicka toon, even with Magicka abilities. I mean, stamina abilities. So it's not that good. You could make it work, but it's going to take a lot of effort to, and the damage is not going to be as good, okay? There's no point. Don't do it. Okay, so that's really it for the gear and the alternative gear sets. There's some Order's Wrath is a craftable set. It gives you tons of critical chance. You can have Order's Wrath. So you could have Reliquant Order's Wrath, or you could have Deadly Order's Wrath. You could even have 2P Zaan Order's Wrath as a very, very beginner level thing. There's probably some other overland sets. Usually craftable and overland sets are not as good as trial sets and dungeon sets. Not all the time. It depends on the situation, but in most cases. Okay. So yeah. Let's go over the skills. I'll get over to I'll tell you the morphs of them, because I hate when freaking build videos don't do that. Okay, so our front bar here, it's not completely finished. I'll get into that. Our front bar is Puncturing Sweeps, the bread and butter. This is a fantastic ability because it's going to do magic damage. It's going to snare enemies, and it's going to snare enemies, slowing them down, and it's also going to heal you. The more damage you output with this, the more you get back. So with Solar Barrage and Deadly, it's really, really good. There's not that many. I don't think there's no CP placement. I'll get to CP in a bit. That actually makes this, that actually boosts this. I don't think. I don't think there is any CP placement that boosts channeled attacks, and if there is, it must not be good because no build video has it. I don't think there is, though, that outright just boosts this particular ability. This is your main bread and butter. This is going to heal you. It's going to do damage. Okay. The next is and you get this from right here. Okay. The next is Power of the Light, which is a morph of Backlash. There's two morphs you can take with this. There's the Magicka morph, which I believe is not going to do at the very end. It's not going to copy the damage, or maybe it's not going to do a big explosion, but it's going to heal you, okay, at the very end of it. I'm pretty positive. The Stamina morph is going to do damage. Now, both of them I think will do base damage when you cast it. It's not that much. The Stamina morph is going to pretty much kind of copy your dad. I said almost dad. I was just doing a test about cybersecurity. That's my fault. It's going to copy your damage. And it's going to be a big burst. After the duration ends, the sunlight bursts, dealing blank amount of damage to the enemy, which increases based on the amount of damage you dealt to them over the duration, up to 200%. So it's fantastic. I will say this: do not cast this before it's finished. The reason is, if you cast it, let me just see if I can find an enemy here. Let's see this mud crab over here, right? This is very important to actually get optimum DPS. If you cast this, oops, that is not what if you cast this, and then you cast it before the duration ends, you're you could be cutting your damage in half, even potentially even more, because you're not letting that burst. It's also not going to be good for your sustain, even if it doesn't cost that much. The next is Barb Trap. We're going to be using 2 Fighters Guild abilities. I don't right now, but we will be using 2 Fighters Guild abilities. This is a morph of Trap Beast that you get from Fighters Guild. You get Fighters Guild by speaking in the inns. Oh, well, no. I think that's Undaunted. Barb Trap, you'll morph Trap Beast. You'll morph it to Barb Trap. You'll get Fighters Guild by going into like cities and stuff like this is Skyreach, and going and talking to the Fighters Guild people. Right? Very, very simple. Not hard to do. You level it up by killing vampires, undead, and I think Daedra as well. You'll get the passive. At least 2 passives, Intimidating Presence and Slayer. The reason Intimidating Presence is good for questing, but it's going to reduce the stamina cost of your Fighters Guild abilities by 15%. So it's going to be really good on your sustain. Okay. Slayer is going to pretty much add 3% weapon spell damage per fighter's guild ability. So your main ultimate, you're not going to use it unless maybe you're DK. I'll get to that. Your main ultimate here is going to be Dawnbreaker. You don't want to morph it to something else. I kind of forgot. My bad. Oh my god, sue me. Please don't. But this is going to add 6%. If you're a DK rocking this can be really good because maybe you're rocking a more expensive ultimate, and with DK passives, when you activate an ultimate, you get resources back. I think you get Magicka, health, and stamina back. So you combine this with Dawnbreaker, which is already a pretty cheap ultimate, and then you combine Banish the Wicked, and you level this up completely. You're gonna get a lot of that back, and if you're in a pinch, you can slam it down. It's not an awful morph. I think the morph you want is it's going to increase your weapon and spell damage over like I think 10-20 seconds by 300 damage. So that's actually not bad, but it's not as good as a meteor. Okay, that's in the Mage's Guild. We'll get to that. So this is also going to grant major force, but which we'll already get from the amulet, and I don't believe they stack. So yeah, that sucks. But this does a shit ton of. This doesn't do tons of initial damage, but it does a shit ton of bleed damage, and it also lasts 20 seconds. So it's a really, really good dot. Okay. The next is Radiant Glory. This is one of the most important abilities. There's two abilities you can go with. You can go Radiant Oppression, which I don't think will heal you, and I don't think it's going to give Magicka back. It's going to do 3 to 4% more damage. The thing with Radiant Glory is why most people rock it, even though there is a very slight damage loss, is because Solar Barrage is going to help boost that anyway, to where it would be around with Radiant Oppression, but with Radiant Oppression you would still get a little bit more damage, obviously, with it if you didn't have Solar Barrage, if you had Solar Barrage. But you're going to get healed, and you're going to get Magicka back. So it's really, 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 really good. Not only that, so the rotation of this is pretty simple. You're not going to use it. You're not going to use it below 40% health. This is your execute. So you want to start using it at a certain health threshold. So around 40% or less, start using it on enemies, the Parses dummy, anything. You're going to replace this. You're going to replace your sweeps with this. Okay. After around 15 to 10%, all you're going to be doing is spamming this ability. You're going to be, pressing whatever it is. For me, it's 4. Using it, light attack, cancel. Using it, light attack, cancel. Using it, light attack, cancel. Right? So pretty much use it, light attack. Use it, light attack. Really, really good ability. Does tons of damage, and really some of your most. Radiant. Power of the Light, Solar Barrage, and Radiant Glory is probably 3 most abilities that are going to do the most damage, especially Radiant Glory or Radiant Oppression. The reason, like I said, Radiant Oppression does more damage. The problem is, majority of people playing a Mag Templar, they're relying either on their Living Dark or Shield or the Rune, or maybe all 3. But your main healing still is going to be your puncturing sweep. So when you back up, yes, you're getting puncturing healing, and yes, you may have your Radiant Ward, which is a Sun Shield, or you may have your Living Dark, which is good. But that may not be enough to help you. So you can use this, get Magicka back, and also heal from it. So it's really, really good. The next is a Quick Cloak, which is a morph of Blade Cloak. There's 2 morphs. There's one that does, I think, a little bit more damage, but it doesn't last as long. So I chose that one for sustain. This is a dual wield ability. So yeah. I'm trying to get as many passives, by the way, as well. Like I said, this will be Dawnbreaker. So that 6% extra, which does add up. Next, our back bar. Remember, our back bar is the Maelstrom's Perfected Inferno Staff, okay? There's a couple of flex spots here. This blade, a Barb Trap, if you're doing Battlegrounds, what I will do is I'll actually go with Inner Light instead from the Mage's Guild, okay? This is where you get Shooting Star, the Morphin Meteor, which is our back bar ultimate. Inner Light gives us the same dot as Vampire's Bane. I'll get into that in a second. But this is going to increase your max Magicka. And combine this with Magicka Controller, this is going to increase your max Magicka and Magicka Recovery. So pretty much, if I was playing a Battleground, I'd be doing this. And this is going to increase my max Magicka and my Magicka Recovery. I don't need Barb Trap because I don't need it. I'd rather have that for a sustain. And then outside of it, and then I'll use Biting Javelin probably instead of Wall of Elements. So I'll use Biting Javelin, which is a stamina ability, because it's really annoying. If good players can counter it, but bad players can't. So that's kind of my setup for about BGs, my daily BGs. That's a whole different story if you should do daily BGs or not, to be honest with you. Yeah, that's a whole different story, right? So let me put this fighter skill ability back, okay? So our bar, so our second bar, weakness to elements. You're gonna get a morph of this. I just started using it. It's a little bit better of a morph. I kind of forgot the name of it, but what this is gonna do is, this is great for solo. You don't need this in actual trial setting because you should be getting a form of major breach. Okay, you should be. But in a solo, you're not. So you need a form of major breach. We have a form of major force. We get major breach from this. What this is gonna do, it doesn't cost nothing. It's instant, so it's really good for your sustain. And this is gonna pretty much decrease the enemy's resistances by a certain amount. Really simple. Doesn't cost a thing. Easy rotation, and it lasts 27 seconds. So very easy rotation there. Next is Unstable Wall of Elements, which is a morph of Wall of Elements. These two abilities come from the Destruction Staff skill line. Okay. Make sure you get all the passives too. That's important. This is what's making our Maelstrom Staff, especially our Perfected Maelstrom Staff, because it's going to add additional weapon and additional offensive penetration, but it's going to increase the damage we do with a Wall of Elements by a certain amount. Unstable Wall of Elements, if you use a Lightning Staff, or for us it's going to look different, but if you use the meta, which is Unstable Wall of Elements with the Inferno Staff, this is going to do damage over time, but it's also going to pop at the very end, doing additional damage like it just did. So it's really good. Next is Vampire's Bane. This is going to give us major savagery and major prophecy. If you're parsing or if you're in a trial, I'm pretty sure you should have these already. We're not, for solo, this is what we're doing. For solo, we're getting major savagery and prophecy. We need that for solo. It's really good for solo. But if you're parsing, you should already have that. I'm 90% positive, maybe wrong. And if you're in a trial group, you really should have that. It's a form of it, right? I think. I may be wrong, but I think. Even though you may already have it, it's fantastic for group play because it's such a long-lasting dot, and it lasts a long time. 32 seconds, guys. Over 30 seconds. That's a very long dot. You can pretty much, in parsing, in actual content, you can throw this on, and this lasts for so long, you can kind of forget about it, honestly. This is very similar to, you know, weakness to elements. You can just throw it on. It's fantastic for your sustain because of that, right? The next is Solar Barrage. If the Puncturing Sweep is like the bread and butter, Solar Barrage is, in my opinion, well, if Puncturing Sweep is the jelly and peanut butter, then Solar Barrage is like the bread, right? This is going to pretty much do damage over time, every 2 seconds, and it's going to increase your damage with every class ability by 5% for 22 seconds. So we're not focusing on Empower because we're not going to be heavy attacking. I guess if you need a heavy attack in PvP or in a trial to get your resources back real quick, for some reason you could, it does more damage, whatever. But we shouldn't be doing that, right? If you don't have to. But it does do that, at least. And 70% is a good amount. But we're not making a heavy attack build. Maybe on a 1-bar build, I think you already have that, so you don't need that. But it'd still be a good dot, but I wouldn't recommend it on 1-bar Templar. I think 1-bar Templars, I may make a build in time when I make one, but I have no plans on making one because I think they're extremely overrated, in my personal opinion. But they're not bad, okay? So yeah, this is a really good dot. It also lasts for 22 seconds. So it's a long-lasting dot, guys. You can place this down. It's a damage over time ability, so whatever. Yeah, whatever. You know what I mean. And it's going to last a very long time. It's super easy. It's going to do damage over time, and it's going to increase your class abilities. Every class ability, including this. I'm pretty sure it also increases the damage of its own ability. It's going to be increasing Vampire's Bane. It's going to be increasing your Puncturing Sweeps, meaning more damage for the Puncturing Sweep, so it's no longer as limp, especially with Deadly. And it's going to be giving you more healing since you're doing more damage with it, right? It's going to be increasing Power of the Light, the initial and the end, and it's going to also be increasing Radiant Glory and Radiant Oppression for your damage. It's very good. Next is a Flex Spot. These two are Flex Spots I'll get into. This is Channel Focus. There's 2 morphs of this. You can go the Stamina morph, or you can go Magicka morph. It really depends on what your struggling with sustain is. Okay? If you struggle with Magicka or Stamina sustain, there you go. When you stand on it, if you don't stand on it, you get passive healing. If you stand in it, you get more healing, and also you're gonna get Magicka recovery. I think it translates to like 400 something extra Magicka recovery. It's very, very good. Weakness to elements. If you're in group content, I recommend you use Ritual of Redistribution instead of weakness to elements. You could if you have a morph of it. It's just not gonna be as good. This is gonna have a kind of a large area. This is gonna do damage to enemies. It's going to cleanse you. And anybody who activates the synergy, it's going to heal your allies and also cleanse them, I'm pretty sure. So this is actually pretty good in VHOF as well. Yeah, for solo, I don't recommend it though. You could use it in solo. This, you could go with Inner Light if you want to, from the Mages Guild, even with Vampire's Bane. You could also, if you want more damage, you could go Ritual Redistribution, and you could go Shards. Up to you. You may have struggle with sustain on that. You can even go Honor the Dead if you're doing a fake roll. It's up to you. So fake random daily spam. You could go Living Dark as well, or Sun Shield. If you want the most damage, you'll go Shards or Radiant Ward, which is a morph of Sun Shield, for the most damage. Okay, and then of course Meteor. This is a Shooting Star. This is a morph of Meteor, which you get from the Mages Guild. To get Mages Guild, you do the same thing you do with the Fighters Guild. You go to speak to the Mages Guild. To level Mages Guild up, you will go and see these lore books. Okay, sometimes they can look like maps. This is an add-on. I forgot the add-on name. I think it's lore books. I think it's this one. You can download it in Minion. Very, 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 very nice. Okay, well there you go. There's a +3. So that's gonna be really, really funny. But at least Discord's required. So yeah, that is kind of the build. If you want the most damage, you can replace this with like Ritual Redistribution, and this can be Sun Shield, Radiant Ward, Shards, whatever it is. The food, it depends on what you really want. I think it's Ghastly Eyeball, I think. This adds max Magicka and Magicka recovery. Okay. And for potions, you will do Essence of Spell Power, and you will also do simple where is it at? I don't know. Oh yeah, maybe I ran out of them. But in your quick bar, you will have Essence of Magicka. They're pretty cheap, like I think a little less than 200 gold. That will help your sustain as well. Okay, let's go over champion point placement before we end this video. I'm using Wrathful Strikes, Deadly Aim, Thermitage, and Exploiter. And then for my red, I'm using Boundless Validity. This increases max health, celerity. Siphoning spells is good for sustain. Every time you kill an enemy, you get 300 Magicka per stage. So if max it out is 150, these are equipable, obviously. And then I'm using Rejuvenation. This will help with recovery. You could also use Fortified if you want to be a little bit tankier, I guess. But I recommend Rejuvenation if you're having sustain issues. And it's just good to have. Okay? Very, very simple. Not overly difficult. If you're going to parse, make sure you have Solar Barrage already activated. And Quick Cloak already activated. Okay? If you're going to be using the rune to parse, when you are able to use Radiant Glory, try not to use your rune anymore. That will be a damage loss, because you already have pretty big damage loss when using this, but it's really good for actual content. It's not the best for parsing. If you do everything Reliquin, non-perfected, if I change this to charged, upgraded these 4 items, and then changed an ability or 2, easy 100k, especially even on a Breton, easy 100k. If you are on a High Elf or Templar, or even a Khajiit, probably over 100k. Like I said, I don't know if I mentioned this, but the best races to play, you could really play any race, but the best meta races to play are for damage is Khajiits are good because they're well-rounded stats, and for that critical chance and critical healing, so critical damage, and critical healing. High Elves statistically are the best Magicka DPS role. Dark Elves are pretty much the same, technically a little bit less, but they have a lot more access to a stamina pool. So they don't have nothing to boost their sustain like Bretons and High Elves do, and they don't have as much Magicka by like I think 90 maybe, but they have more access to a stamina pool. Okay, so that could help your sustain. But they're mainly for more experienced players, even though they're really top tier DPS for both. So if you don't know if you want to make a Stamina or Magicka Templar, or if you want to make an armory system and have both, you can. So there you go. That is the build. That is my Magicka Templar build. Let's go over the Mundus stones real quick. There's two main Mundus stones you can use. You can use the Thief or you can use the Lover. If you're going pure solo content, the Lover. If you're going duo, the Lover. If you're going on like a pub group that you have no guarantee to hit pin cap, the Lover. However, if you are in an organized trial or an organized group, mainly an organized trial, you'll probably hit pin cap. You probably want the Thief. Okay? So pure solo, the Lover. Organized content, the Thief. Okay? Yeah. Not too difficult. This build is really fun to play, really easy to play. You can solo world bosses. I would recommend probably some type of shield, like sun shield, or living dark to do that. But you can easily solo almost any world boss if you know the mechanics of it. Very, very simple. Okay. So that is the build. It's not completely finished. It will have Whorl the Depths on it, and I'll eventually make a DK build. I may even make a solo DK build with Pel Order, but at first I'm not going to do that. I'm really excited to play this build. I really like it. Like I said, easy 100k with good effective skills and rotations, and everything maxed out. Okay. She went over champion points. I went over the gear, the alternative gear. There's more alternative gear you can use of craftable and overland, and probably different dungeon sets. But I just didn't go over them. Okay. Yeah. So really, really interesting build. I'm really liking Templar, to be honest with you. Almost over a 36-minute video, but it's definitely worth it. I'm not gonna go over pure rotations. It's pretty self-explanatory. Just make sure you have a Solar Barrage on, and then Quick Cloak, and make sure you let the Unstable Wall of Elements burst, because that's going to help your sustain, and don't overcast Power of the Light. And only start using this around 40% and around 15, maybe 20, but around 10 to 20%, just spam this. Around probably 10 to 15%, start just only using Radiant Glory. Okay? And the weakness to elements, this is a flex spot. You can use Ritual Redistribution if you would like in a parse as well. Yeah, if you liked the video, please hit the like button, subscribe, comment. If you have any more things you want to add, questions about the build, I could probably answer them for you. Like I said, this is meant as a template. This is a meta build, relatively. It's good for a lot of content, but not good for every content. Infinite Archives, it's definitely good for until the later stages. You have to make really tanky builds for that. You're going to struggle on survivability. But for the first couple waves on Infinite Archive, you're going to be easily fine. I mean, really, any build is going to be easily fine. So yeah, if you like the video, subscribe, like. If you have any questions, ask. Thanks, guys. I really do appreciate it, and peace out.